Om Shruti Smiti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantao Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In the concluding section of the Sankhya Yoga, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, we are in the verses unfolded by Sri Krishna describing the nature of the Sthita Prajnaha. Who is a Sthita Prajnaha? The person of steady wisdom. The one who is happy without a cause. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. And the one who has freed his mind from the binding desires that demand fulfillment, and who is free from the turbulent raga dveshas which are in the mind. So, we saw earlier all these verses. Sri Krishna devotes 18 verses at the end of this important chapter, considered the essence of the whole Gita, to description of the wise person, Sthitadhihi or Sthita Prajnaha. And so, we saw in connection with these verses, the shlokas number 62 and 63, where how casual fancy, just a thought in the mind can develop in stages to become a deep-rooted desire in the mind, and that can have very undesirable consequences and lead to intense suffering. We saw various examples. For example, our eyes may be attracted to a diamond necklace in a shop window. Yeah. And we go into the shop and appreciate its beauty and craftsmanship and also notice the price tag. And then I may choose to leave the shop without a sense of loss. But that image of the necklace has formed an impression in my mind, which does not leave the mind. And it continues, to remind us of that object. Then what happens to that casual desire, a vritti in the mind? By imagination, it begins to become an attachment, a subtle attachment in the mind. And then by imagination, it further develops into a strong desire, kamaha, and then binding kamaha, that is called trishna. Trishna means now it is craving for fulfillment. So now when one understands that it is not practical, I cannot afford that object, then that unfulfilled desire becomes the cause of frustration, disappointment, and anger. And Shankaracharya here in his commentary, Bhashyam, says that when there is a fit of anger, it is as though one is possessed and the Viveka Buddhi is clouded, and everybody around becomes a victim of one's anger. This is why teenagers have their tantrums when their desires cannot be fulfilled by parents. This is what happens. And Shankaracharya says even the guru is not spared. So one gets angry with the government, with the family members, parents, and even gurus, and misbehaves even with the pets. Yeah. So that is the unfortunate consequence of non-fulfillment of a desire, binding desire. Now, what happens when we fulfill the desire? So when the desire is fulfilled, yeah, then of course it's going to give me some happiness for some time. I get to experience that object and to wear it and to own it. Yeah. But it is temporary. And then what happens? I am busy with preserving it. I fear the loss. Yeah. And again, whenever we fulfill a binding desire, the Bhagavad Gita tells us that that impression gets strengthened, and it binds us to the cycle of desire. The next time, again, that impression will crave for fulfillment, there'll be binding desire, and we are caught up in that cycle. Yeah. So it looks like fulfillment is a problem and non-fulfillment is a greater problem. Yeah. So then one may wonder, that how can one live life without desires? Desires are unavoidable and inevitable. We all desire clothes and certain kind of lifestyle, an education, career, job. We desire the best things for our family and so on. So is the Gita advising us not to have desires? This can be a notion in one's mind. So here, we are reminded of one verse, comes later in the Gita chapter by Krishna, who says, Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmi he bharatarshava. Krishna tells, O Arjuna, desire is a great privilege and blessing of Ishvara granted only to human beings. But the desire should be dharma aviruddha, not against dharma. So if it is a sattvic desire and meant for one's inner growth or for the upliftment of people around us, loka sangraha, then, it is not a binding desire. But the desire born of rajas and tamas, which clouds the mind and which creates the inner pressure and turbulence, is a binding desire. So may one convert the binding desires in our mind to non-binding desires for inner growth. This is how the Bhagavad Gita guides us to analyze the nature of desire. Do I really need it? Yeah. And what will I gain by fulfilling the desires? What will I lose by fulfillment or non-fulfillment? In the next chapter, Krishna is going to say, Name parthasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchanam. And says, Arjuna, look at me. I am busy with Srishti, Sthiti, and Laya, engaged with the worlds, upholding the worlds. But even though I'm intensely engaged in action, I have nothing to lose and nothing to gain. In fact, even before the Srishti begins, it is said that Srishti can only begin when there is a sankalpa, a desire in the mind of Ishvara. So the Upanishad says, So kamayata saha akamayata, which means there was a sankalpa in the mind of Ishvara, may I become many. Let the Srishti begin. And then by the power of Maya, the worlds are all unfolded. So desire by itself is not a problem. So Bhagavad Gita has devoted so many verses to show us that how to have mastery over desires. In short, the mind management or desire management. For example, if you take money, if I have a desire for acquiring money, that's not a problem. But if I think money is the source of all happiness, it is of prime importance, then that is called a positive superimposition or Shobhana Adhyasa. And because money is just a resource, it is a purchasing power. It can help me develop a skill and pay the bills and pay for all the needs that I need. Definitely it is useful. Then the other extreme, if I think money is useless, it is a source of evil, I'm not going to touch money. Again, that is a superimposition, negative superimposition. And so Bhagavad Gita teaches us the life of objectivity, assigning the value to every object and in the right places very objectively, and very practically. And if we take a person, if I again do this adhyasa on a person, I say this person, is the source of all happiness for me. And my whole life is dependent on one person, then again that emotional dependence is going to cause later disappointment and unhappiness. Because we know that no object, no event, no situation can bring the same happiness later, and it cannot give happiness to everybody at the same time. So, what does that mean? That happiness and sorrow are not centered on any external object. Both are projections of my mind. I have a certain perception and expectation that that object or situation will make me happy. So, this is how the Bhagavad Gita guides us in desire management to put everything in the proper perspective. Then, where is happiness if it is not external? Then, Atmanieva Atmana Tushtaha. Happiness is centered on I, on me. And so, to discover that source of happiness is why we need to understand a lot about desire management, because without mastery of desires, we will not have a steady and pure mind. And without a steady mind, we cannot own up the vision, and knowledge will not happen. And without knowledge, there is no freedom, there is no moksha. So, now let us continue to the next verses from 65, I think. Yeah, 65. Prasade sarvadukhanam hanirasyopajaayate प्रसन्नचेतसो ह्याशु बुद्धिः पर्यवतिष्ठते प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्नचेतसो ह्याशु बुद्धिः पर्यवतिष्ठते. So we all know the meaning of prasada. Now prasada is in Sanskritam prasidati iti prasadam. Prasidati means that which pleases one. So when we go to a place of worship, like a temple, we receive prasadam. Gladly we receive it. Yeah. So here, prasada is the chitta prasada. So when the mind is freed from the grip of raga dvesha, it enjoys the chitta prasadam, tranquility and cheerfulness and steadiness in the mind. And so this verse says, prasade sarva dukkhanam hanihi asya upajayate. So for the one who enjoys the chitta prasadam in the form of a steady mind, all the dukkhas come to an end. The emotional dukkha. We have seen the three sources of dukkham: adhyatmika, adibhautika, adidaivika. Dukkham, for which the source can be from my body and mind, or from my surroundings, or from nature, from my own karma. And so all the dukkham comes to an end for one who enjoys this chitta prasadam. So then Krishna says the mind becomes like a very clean mirror. You know, if the mirror is dusty, the reflection is bound to be dusty. So karma yoga, this Ishwararpana buddhi, prasad buddhi, management of desires is like cleaning the mirror of our minds. And then in that mirror, the reflection of the Atma happens. Clear knowledge can happen. Now, the body may be affected, but the mind remains peaceful. The body has to undergo the experiences of prarabdha, but the mind is steady. And for such a steady mind alone is Atmajnanam possible. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyopajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishthate. The second line says, prasanna chetasaha hi ashu buddhi pariavatishthate. That is for the one who has a prasanna chetas. That is same thing, prasanna chittam or chetas. What happens? Ashu, very quickly, the buddhi, knowledge, will abide, will stay. Buddhi pari avatishtade. Let's go to the next verse. Because this is such an important topic, Krishna is devoting so many verses to the mastery of the mind. नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य न चायुक्तस्य भावना नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य न चायुक्तस्य भावना न चाभावयतः शान्तिः अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम् न चाभावयतः शान्तिः अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम्. A rhetorical verse here. Na asti buddhihi ayuktasya, na cha ayuktasya bhavana, na cha abhavayatah shantihi, ashantasya kutah sukham. So here we will see a lot of Shashti Vibhakti in this shloka. That is, for a ayuktaha. Who is a ayuktaha? Ayuktaha is the one whose mind is turbulent, who has no prasada buddhi, who's not integrated and collected. Ayuktaha. For this ayuktaha, na buddhihi asti. So there is no knowledge is possible for the person of unsteady mind. Ayuktasya na asti buddhihi. Then also what else is not there? Ayuktasya na cha bhavana. Bhavana here means contemplation. So how can one sit silently in a few minutes of contemplation, be at peace, if the mind is not steady? If the mind is turbulent with raga dveshas, clamoring for fulfillment, not possible. So for a ayuktaha, unsteady mind, then knowledge is not possible and also contemplation is not possible. Then nacha abhavayataha shantihi. Then for one who is, for whom there is no bhavana, there is no meditative mind, then there can be no peace, no shanti. And lastly, ashantasya kutaha sukham. And for one who has no peace, where is happiness? So how can there be happiness? So this shloka is saying the vision of the Gita, that is the clear, steady knowledge, Atmajnanam, which is going to remove all the sorrows, the threefold tapam, tapatrayam, dukham, is not possible in a mind which is controlled by raga and dvesha. Raga, dvesha means attachment and aversion, strong likes and dislikes. So the whole Gita psychology is about managing, mastering raga and dvesha. So that creates the inner pressure. So this clearly shows that if there are raga dveshas in the mind, then the mind is going to be extroverted. I want to own that. I want to go there for an exotic vacation. I want to experience that pleasure. So the mind will be driven outwards. Then where is the question of bhavana, contemplation? How can it turn inwards and to contemplate on the Atma or Bhagavat Swarupaha is not possible. So this is why sometimes when we sit down for meditation, after 5 minutes, some people cannot sit and they'll get up. For this reason, because the mind is not trained in that certain lifestyle which is conducive for meditation. And that is the lifestyle of Karma Yoga and Buddhi Yoga. So such a mind cannot focus on the Gita class also for a few minutes. No? So many students will attend Gita. No? Some will be very focused and attention span will be maybe 40 minutes, which is very good, 45 minutes. But we will find that after 10 minutes, 20 minutes, the mind will begin to wander, go into the past or the future, unless it is trained to take notes or to be alert in that 1 hour class, it is not going to happen. So here, if we cannot sit quietly, if we cannot focus on a class or even few minutes in meditation, then where is the peace? And without peace, where is the happiness? That is the shloka here. Nasti buddhirayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shantihi ashantasya kutas sukham. 67. 67 is going to talk about the turbulent senses. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu vidhiyate. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu vidhiyate. Tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamivambhasi. Tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamivambhasi. Indriyanam hi charatam yat manaha anuvidhiyate. Tat asya harati prajnam vayuhu navam iva ambhasi. So here Krishna gives the example of the boat on waters. So the last session I had explained the chariot imagery. You know how the jiva, that is us, we are seated where? In the body chariot. Yeah, the body is like a vehicle. And the mind are the reins of the horses. The horses are the organs of knowledge, indriyani. Now, if the organs of knowledge, the indriyani and the mind are turbulent, yeah, then we are not going to reach the destination. It will go wildly here and there, the places. Yeah. Same thing is explained here. Indriyanam hi charatam. Charata means grazing. So it's like the mind, the sense organs, which are likened to horses, they're grazing over what? Sense objects. So the organs of knowledge, they are extroverted and grazing outwards. Indriyanam hi charatam. Then what does the manas do? Yat manaha anuvidhiyate. Instead of tightening the reins, the reins are loose. So the mind is also pursuing the sense pleasures, is going along with whatever the data is reported. We saw the sense organs are data reporters. They bring in the data, forms, colors, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. Then the mind has to respond. So instead of having vivekam, discrimination, the mind is carried away by the senses. And so what happens? Then the prajna. What is prajna? Prajna is the wisdom, is the knowledge. The knowledge will be harati, will be robbed away. The mind will get hijacked by the sense organs. And the last quarter says that just as a boat on waters, navam iva ambhasi. Ambhasi is on the waters. So you take a boat on the waters, in the Kumbh Mela, we all saw so many boats. Yeah, and with the boats, people will go to the Sangam for a dip. That middle Sangam portion, you can only go by boat. But sometimes the boat, is a very small boat and it can collapse also, it can overturn. But there will be the army people who will rescue the people. Yeah, that's a good thing. And they have life jackets also. So here it is said that this Vayu is the wind. A stormy wind, what can it do? It can just overturn the boat on waters. So too, the strong winds of Raga and Dvesha will upturn the Jiva himself. The Jiva seated in the vehicle and robs away the knowledge when the mind goes along with the senses. Yeah. So such a mind cannot have any viveka buddhi, and so no knowledge will be there. And so such a mind which pursues the raga dveshas, it will be constantly doing what? Yoga kshema, acquiring objects, preserving objects. Yeah, constant tension and stressed life will be there. Indriyanam hi charatam yan mano nuvidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayuhu navam iva ambhasi. And so what shall we do now? Krishna says, Tasmat yasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. Tasmat asya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratishtita. So tasya prajna pratishtita is a common phrase. That knowledge is steady. That knowledge is steady and abiding. And so all these verses are describing the glory of the Sthita Prajnaha, the Atmajnani. So what should one do? Hey Mahabaho, hey Arjuna, Tasma, therefore, Asya Nigrihitani Sarvashah. So for whom? For whom the Indriyani, the sense organs, are withdrawn from the Indriyarthebhyaha. Indriyartha are the sense objects, the grazing grounds, and Indriyani are the sense organs likened to the horses. So when the Buddhi, the charioteer, has got Viveka and is very alert and vigilant and is able to withdraw the sense organs from the sense objects, asya, for that person, tasya prajna pratisthita. This knowledge will be firm and steady. Yeah? Now, we must remember that, desired management does not mean suppression. Sometimes, deliberately, like for Mahashivaratri, Navaratri, we deliberately, withdraw the sense organs because it is to discipline and master the senses and get emotional maturity. But generally in life, suppression will only come back with a violent force like a volcano eruption. Yeah. Neither do we want to express it. Yeah. Fulfillment of binding desires is also a problem. Neither do we want to suppress. So what shall we do? So Bhagavad Gita says, channelize the desires. Do viveka, vichara, analyze. So earlier on in a shloka, Krishna said, Tani Sarvani samyamya yuktaha asita matparaha. So Krishna says, become a matparaha. That is, devote a few times to swadhyaya, to dhyanam, and turn the mind inwards, even if it's for 2 minutes, then extend it to 5 minutes and 10 minutes. And slowly that rasa, that emotional value that we have for worldly objects, that will not agitate anymore. That will become weak. Because param drishtva nivartate, because I am discovering something which is of more value, which is more precious, and I want that freedom, I want that peace. So for that, I will master my senses. In the Bhagavata Purana, there are a lot of stories by which they indicate all these topics. Like there is a story of how there are 5 creatures and each of them is bound by one sense organ and perishes. Yeah. Like the bee, the honey bee, it'll be attracted by the smell of the honey in the flowers. And it settles on the flower. But then at dusk, the flower closes. And along with that, the bee perishes. Yeah. Then the deer example is for the sense organ of sound. The deer hears beautiful music, enchanting music in the forest, and it goes towards the music. And of course, there are hunters which trap it. Elephant is tempted by the sense of touch. The male elephant goes towards the female elephant, and also gets trapped in the process. And the fish is attracted by the bait, sense of taste. And it goes and the fisherman pulls it out and captures it. Then finally, the moth. The moth is attracted towards light or a flame. That's the organ of sight. And it gets attracted and it perishes in the heat of the flame. So then the Puranas say each of these creatures perished because of one sense organ. But the human being has got 5 sense organs. And all 5 of them can be causes of destruction. Yeah. So definitely, we don't want to suppress desires and neither fulfill them all the time, but very intelligently master the desire fulfillment by our viveka. What kind of viveka? Do I need to fulfill the desire? What will I gain? What will I lose? Maybe later on. Yeah. And now it's a time to meditate. And so gradually we master the senses. Yeah. And the Sthita Prajnaha is able to do that at will. effortlessly, spontaneously, because he's already practiced all this before. But the karma yogi, the mumukshu, has to deliberately cultivate this discipline of shamaha and damaha to gain the steady, pure mind which can dive inwards, yeah, into the discovery of Atma Jnanam. So let's chant this verse again. तस्मात् यस्य महाबाहो निगृहीतानि सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. Now, 69 is not an easy verse to understand, and but a very beautiful verse. या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः. या निशा सर्वभूतानां तस्यां जागर्ति संयमी यस्यां जागृति भूतानि सा निशा पश्यतो मुनेः. So Krishna is responding to Arjuna's question. What is the vyavahara of a jnani? How will a person of steady wisdom conduct in the world? And these are all the answers Krishna is giving. And that the jnani is like this and like that. And here in this verse, Krishna says, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagarti sanyami. Nisha. Now this verse, you have to remember it as day-night verse. Yeah, so the analogy of what is day and what is night. Yeah, symbolically we have to see. So Krishna says here, Nisha. Nisha means night. That which is night for all beings, Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagarti Sanyami. Sanyami means the one who has mastery. Siddha Prajna, in other words. This wise person is awake. Yeah. To that which is night for all beings. The all beings are to be understood as the otherwise, the unwise or ignorant. Second line, Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani, and all the people, the majority, what are they awake to? What are they pursuing? That is night for the Muni. So Muni and Sayami are all words for Sthita Prajna here. So that which is night for all beings, Sthita Prajna is awake. It is day. And what is day for all the beings? What they're enjoying, that is night for the Muni or the Sthita Prajna. So now we have to understand night and day. So, at night, what do? Generally, we'll sleep. So at night, there is a veil of darkness. Yeah, around in our place, wherever we are living, nighttime. Yeah. And also as we are sleeping, there is a veil of ignorance. I don't know, I am Swamini in my deep sleep. Yeah, there is no world, there is no time, space, and I am blissfully unaware, ignorant. So the night here stands for avidya nidra, the sleep of ignorance. In other words, a worldly life where one is craving pleasures and fulfilling the raga dveshas and leading a worldly extroverted life. So that is the sleep of darkness. The night of ignorance is night. So the worldly minded people, yeah, Bhutanam, it is said, Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam. So all those people, they may be awake, physically awake, but they are perceiving what? Dvaitam. Dvaitam means they are perceiving that the world is very real and they want to own objects, they want to experience objects, and they want to derive pleasures from the world. Yeah. So they have this bahushakha buddhihi, unsteady mind due to raga dveshas. And so they want to gain and fulfill desires. So that is the night. So tasyam jagarti sanyami. So Now let us understand the day. Now the day stands for enlightenment or moksha or advaita. So the day is when the jnani is awake. So which means what? The jnani is awake to the Parama Purushartha. The jnani is awake to the reality of Atma, that limitless Ananda Swarupa Atma, which is timeless, spaceless, and formless. So, Advaitam is day and Dvaitam is night. Yeah. Atma Jnanam is day and Anatma, pursuits and pleasures, is night. So the wise one is Jagarti. The Sanyami or the wise person is awake to the Paramartha Tattvam, reality of Atma. And so he understands that the world is an appearance. And what is the Paramarthika Satyam? That is Ekam Advitiyam Atma. So the Jnani is awake to that, to the day, which means awake to the Atma Tattvam. The vision is very clear. Like, one person may complain, oh, I'm struggling in life. No, I want to acquire this. I'm sad. I'm anxious. But what will the Jnani think? Jnani will say there is no cause to be sad. Every moment is a matter of celebration because the Atma Jnani is abiding in the Atma Tattvam. Yeah. So you see, just as day and night. Day and night are opposites. Where there is day, there is no night. Where there is night, there is no day. So like that also, the nature of a Sita Prajnaha is opposite to the nature of a other wise person. So the other wise person will be constantly fulfilling the desires and seeing the world as real. The world gives me happiness, gives me sorrow. Whereas what is the understanding of Atma Jnani? I am the problem, I am the solution. The world cannot give me any happiness, neither sorrow. This is the understanding of the wise person. Yeah. And so, this is not an easy verse to understand, but what it finally says is that night is Dvaita Buddhi. Yeah, Dvaita Buddhi. So those people who are perceiving the world to be very real, yeah, and who have nothing higher to perceive, yeah, they want to just enjoy the worldly objects. They are, enjoying the night, the night of darkness and ignorance. It's day for them. Yeah, it's day for them, but they are asleep. And the jnani is very clear, has got clear vision, and the day is the crystal clear clarity of Atma Jnanam, but that is denied to the worldly people. It is night for them. Yeah. So one has to reflect upon this verse a few times and then we will get it. Now Arjuna must also be confused with this night and day example. Yeah. And so in the next verse, Krishna is going to give a much easier illustration and a very beautiful one, that of the ocean. So let us look at that also. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato munehe. Now comes the change of meter also, Trishtup meter, the longer verses. Apuryamānamacala pratishtham, apuryamānamacala pratishtham, samudramāpah pravishanti yadvat, samudramāpah pravishanti yadvat, tadvat kāmāyam pravishanti sarve, tadvat kāmāyam pravishanti sarve, sashantimāpnoti na kāmakāmi. Sashantimapnoti na kamakami. So, it's a beautiful verse here. And if there is one verse we would have to select for Sita Prajnaha, it would be this verse. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudram Apaha pravishanti yadvat. Tadvat kamaha yam pravishanti sarve saha shantim apnoti na kama kami. So here Krishna is saying, giving the analogy of the ocean. No? Now, the ocean is a glory of Ishvara. But what is its glory is described here with two adjectives. First is ocean is called Samudraha here. Samudraha is Apuryamanam. Apuryamanam means filled up to the capacity, up to the brim. Yeah. Apuryamanam. And the second adjective is Achala Pratishtham. Achala Pratishtham means which is not moving. So the ocean has lot of waves. There is movement, but the ocean does not move. Yeah, the ocean's location is fixed. Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean. The Ishvara has fixed those locations. Yeah, Achala Pratishtham. That is the glory. Then what else is the glory? The glory is the ocean is independently existing. Does the ocean depend on any rivers or on the rainwater for its fullness? No. The ocean enjoys its own fullness naturally. Yeah. So whether Yamuna, Godavari, Narmada, Ganga flow into the ocean, or whether the waters evaporate and form the rain clouds, the ocean's depth does not increase or decrease. It remains always of steady depth and full. So that is the independent nature of the ocean. Yeah. And if there are clouds which, shower rain upon the ocean, will it increase the fullness? No. In fact, the clouds exist because of the ocean water. Yeah. And the rivers also. The rain water becomes the rivers. Rivers flow into the ocean, and that's the water cycle. Yeah. Now take the example of a pond or a river. They are limited and finite water bodies. Yeah. Are they independent? No. Ponds and rivers and spring waters, they all depend upon the rain. In drought and intense summers, they dry up. And then when there is a flood, or a storm, then they fill up again, unlike the ocean. So look at the verse here. Apuryamanam achala pratishtham samudram. Into the samudra, apaha pravishanti yatvad. Waters can enter into the ocean, but the ocean depth and fullness is not affected a bit. Yeah. Then tattva, and so now we see the dashtanta. Dashtanta is, what is the point here? Kamaha yam pravishanti sarve. Sarve kamaha. So too, into the mind of the Sitaprajnaha, all the desires, like the rivers into the ocean, can flow. So the mind of the wise person is compared to the ocean's depth. It is steady, invariable, it is constant. So, sarve kamaha yam pravishanti, but is the wise person affected? No. Remains unchanged like the ocean depth. Saha shantim apnoti. The wise person is not agitated, does not change whether desires enter or they leave. Yeah. So nothing can improve or diminish the anandam of this jnana. A favorable situation, yeah, favorable event, is happening. The Sthita Prajna is happy. And when Ashubham happens, unfavorable event, is still happy for no reason. So there is no dependence on an external object, event, or situation. And the jnani is emotionally independent, like the independence of the ocean. Whereas the ponds and the rivers, they are dependent on the rainwater to exist. Yeah. So in the commentary, it is said that the kamakamis are the desirer kamis of objects of desire. Kama kami. So they depend on the world for the fulfillment, for happiness, peace, and security. So they are like the ponds and the rivers which dry up or which fill up, but they are dependent externally. So very beautiful verse here. It shows that how there is that emotional stability and maturity for the wise person. But for the kamakamis, the unwise people, what will they be? Emotional roller coaster. Yeah. When favorable situation, Shubham happens, they are ecstatic. And when Ashubham happens, then they are in depression. So this is the beautiful verse here. आपूर्यमाणमचलप्रतिष्ठम् समुद्रमापः प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत् कामायं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे स शान्तिमाप्नोति न कामकामी. So in the light of that Purnatvam, the jnani is always happy and contented and peaceful. Shantim apnoti. Now we have in the last two verses, Krishna is summarizing this with a prajna prakarana and says, Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumanscharati nisprihaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashantimadhigacchati. Vihaya kaman yaha sarvan puman charati nisprihaha nirmamaha nirahankaraha saha shantim adhikacchati. So previously we had saha shantim apnoti, and in this verse saha shantim adhikacchati. Same meaning. He or she, this Atmajnani, attains peace, gains peace. No? How? Vihaya kaman. Sarvan kaman vihaya. Giving up all the binding desires, those which demand fulfillment, which are rajasic. Sarvan vihaya yaha charati. Charati means moves about. Moves about means what? Engages in activity. Does vyavahara. It can be very active in the world. Such wise people, like the Janaka. King Janaka is often mentioned as the great administrator who had a family and kingdom, who supervised so many duties, and yet at heart he was fully detached like a sannyasi. And so whether it is a grihastha like Janaka or a sannyasi like Adi Shankaracharya, that intense life of activity can never disturb them internally. That is explained here. Charity. And so, they with the calm inward mind, they are nispraha. Nispraha means without spriha. Spriha is the longing, the craving, that emotional value. The rasa is not there for such wise people. And they freely move about in the world. Yeah, move about in the world, and it's considered, just their presence is a blessing because they have perfect mastery over the minds. Then what is their nature? Nirmamaha nirahankaraha. So, nirahankaraha means there is no ahankara. See, ahankara means that I notion. Who is the individual? The individual is the jiva who has the I notion in this body, mind, sense. The I am Swamini Sumatmananda, that is the ahankara of Swamini. So like that, we all have I notions in our bodies and minds. And that's the transactional I. But here, the jnani has become nirahankara. Nirahankara means that I has got Ishwarized. The I has expanded to become the all-pervading Atma I. And so the jnani can say, I am everything. I am everybody. I am in the goat. I am in the stars. I am in the cow. I am in the beggar. I am in the terrorist even. So ahameva idam sarvam. So that understanding of Atma is the I notion for the jnani. So he is a nirahankaraha. there is just a minimal functional I in the body because the Sharira Yatra has to go on. Even the Jnani has balance prarabdha. For that, there will be an empirical I. But the Jnani will always abide as the all-pervading I, Ishvara I. Then, if there's no ahankara, how can there be mamatvam? Nirmamaha means without the sense of ownership. No me, no mine. Yeah. So if there is no I, then how can I say my house, my car, my family, my role, my sukham, my dukham? No, there is a healthy distancing. So this nirahankaraha sitaprajnaha has also become nirmamaha. That means the jnani does not consider even the body as his, because the body is gifted by nature and will go back to nature. Oh, everything is a gift. In fact, for the jnani, the body is a luxury. Yeah, the human body is a luxury and a great gift of Ishvara. I could pursue the 4 Purusharthas and ultimately Moksha Purushartha also. So this Nirmamaha Nirahankaraha, what happens to him? Saha Shantim Adhi Gacchati. So there is no more limited I notion. Because we feel limited, we struggle. Is it not? The jiva, I'm sukhi, I'm dukhi, I'm limited, I'm aging, I'm a mortal, what can I do? I'm suffering. This is because of the limited I notion, but not so for the jnana. There is a Subhashitam, beautiful one. Ayam nijaha paro veti ganana lagu chetasam udara charitanam tu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. You may have heard of this very popular Subhashitam. Our Modi ji will often quote this. I am Nijaha. This is mine. Paraha Veti. This is yours. This is hers. This is very petty mindedness to think that something belongs to me and something belongs to his or her. Udara Charitanam tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Whereas the whole earth is one family. Vasudha eva Kutumbakam. So that generous, expansive, non-judgmental, all-accommodating, compassionate nature we can find in the Sita Prajnaha. Saha Shantim Adhigachati. So you see, the jnani continues to live in the world, very much engaged in action, if that happens to be the prarabdha, but inwardly ever calm, ever unattached. Unattached. So many examples we've seen for that life of unattachment. Vayu, the wind flows everywhere, but it is not attached to anything. The sun shines its light, but remains a sakshi. Yeah. And later on, the lotus leaf in water remains in muddy waters, but it is never stained. Yeah. And so, charati. And like the ocean example we just saw, the oceans whose depth is stable. Whereas the others do not experience the peace, the kamakamis. Now we come to the last verse of this beautiful chapter 2, Sankhya Yoga. Vihaya kamanya sarvan pumans charati nisprihaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashantim adhigacchati. Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati sthitva syamantakaalepi brahma nirvanam richati. Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati sthitva syamantakaalepi brahma nirvanam richati. So now Krishna praises Brahma Vidya and concludes the chapter by saying, Esha Brahmi Sthitihi. He Partha, na enam prapya vimuhyati. Sthitva asyam antakale api brahma nirvanam richati. So, Esha Brahmi Sthitihi. He Partha, O Arjuna, you know what you asked for? You asked for the nature of the wise person. This is it. Esha Brahmi Sthitihi. This is the state or understanding of a Brahmajnani. Brahmi Sthitihi. Now, you see, sthitihi generally means a state, right? Like waking state, dream state, deep sleep state. But the states keep rotating. So here we should not take the meaning of the temporary state meaning here, but we take the meaning of understanding, abiding. So the Atmajnani abides in the Brahma Vidya, in this knowledge of Aham Atma. Esha Brahmi Sthitihi. Partha. Now, okay, the Atmajnani has gained this knowledge. No? Can this knowledge, disappear? Can the ignorance return? No. Enam prapya na vimuhyati. There is no more ignorance. Once the knowledge is gained, it's gained for good. Yeah, it is gained for good, and the clarity of understanding being there, ignorance cannot return. So once there is crystal clear abiding knowledge, Aham Atma, I am the limitless Satchidananda Atma, then how can I continue to take myself to be the Sukhi, Dukhi, Karta, Bhokta, struggling, suffering Jiva? That ignorance or samsara will not be there. Of course, this can only happen when one has gone through Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, the triple sadhana in Jnana Yoga. So, this wise person gains moksha in this life itself. Now, the second line says, Titva asyam antakale api. Now, antakala means, fortunately, none of us know this antakala. Yeah, the final moment of departure, leaving the body behind. Yeah? We do not know, but it can happen anytime. So here the shloka says that even when one gains this knowledge and comes to the Gita wisdom at the fag end of one's life, one may be 90 plus, faculties are weak, body is weak, eyes cannot see. Even at Antakala, when this person can gain this knowledge. Antakale api Brahma Nirvanam richati. Richati means gains. Yeah, one can gain this knowledge. How will one gain that at Antakala? Generally, an old person. Yeah? If an old person has lived the whole life with Ishwararpana Buddhi, Prasada Buddhi, and has gained that maturity and stability, then it will be very easy to gain this knowledge even at the advanced age. Advanced age, and one can be, when one thinks one is close to death, then also one can gain this liberating knowledge. Then what will happen? Videha Mukti, freedom from this life, and no more punarjanma, no more rebirth. So, that is why this Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 and chapter 8 and Katha Upanishad are often chanted when a person is departing or has just departed. Yeah. And it guides the Atma, the Jivatma. So, like, King Parikshit. We have heard the story many times. The King Parikshit of the Bhagavata Purana, he was cursed and had only 7 days left. Yeah. Then he takes refuge at the sage Shuka. And Shuka says, it's a matter of celebration. You're so fortunate. You have 7 days and you can easily gain this knowledge in 7 days. And definitely Parikshit did that. And the king became a jnani. And the poison of the Takshaka snake could affect only the body, but not the Atma of the king Parikshit. And Shankaracharya in this shloka adds a note and says, when the Gita is so promising what? Nirvana. Nirvana is a word in Buddhism for moksha. Brahma Nirvana is promised for even an old person. Then what to speak of if one gains this knowledge at a younger age? With a healthy body, healthy mind, if one gains this knowledge, it will be so much easier. And then gaining moksha, one will be a Jivan Muktaha. Life will be stress-free, tension-free, and it will be very smooth. Quality of life will be there. Yeah. So the hidden message is Krishna and Shankaracharya says, do not postpone the Gita study. May one do systematic Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasnam, gain this crystal clear knowledge and become free. Esha Brahmi Sthitiv Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyate Stitvasyam Antakalepi Brahma Nirvana Mrichyate. Now, you all know there is a line at the end of every chapter that we chant. Om Tat Sat Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Sankhya Yogo Nama Dvitiyodhyayaha. Om Tat Sat. Yeah, Om Tat Sat are the three auspicious words which indicate a completion and an auspicious completion. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, yeah, Gita Su, in the chapters of the Gita, which is an Upanishad. Gita is often called Gita Upanishad. What are the topics? Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. Brahma Vidya is Atma Jnana, Moksha Shastra, and Yoga Vidya is Karma Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, the way of life. So both these Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade in this dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna. In this chapter called Sankhya Yoga, Dvitiyaha Adhyayaha, second chapter is Sampurnaha. Second chapter, which has these topics in the dialogue, Guru Shishya Samvada is now Sampurnaha. Now, with chapter 2, the entire Gita teachings is complete. Yeah, in a capsule form. You know, we saw how every verse of this chapter is so loaded with meaning. Yeah? But, you know, not many can grasp it right away, including Arjuna. Yeah. So Arjuna is going to have questions, many more questions, and the next chapter also starts with a question. Krishna, you're praising knowledge, and why should I do this Ghora Karma? I don't want to fight the war. Yeah. So the knowledge is given in a capsule form. So the rest of the chapters in the Gita are going to give a lot of elaboration, beautiful details, how to fine tune our lifestyle, you know, how to raise the Shraddha level to Sattvic heights, how to master the mind, what kind of worship I have to do, and many, many details will follow and in the remaining chapters, and they're very valuable for gaining the self-knowledge. The self-knowledge is already accomplished, yeah, but how am I going to develop a conducive lifestyle and the mind and my habits? How am I going to change all that in order to gain moksha is the content of the rest of the chapters. Yeah, very important. And we must study the Bhagavad Gita at least once in a lifetime. And Chinmayananda said the Bhagavad Gita has to go through you also many times. Yeah, it's not enough if I study the Gita, but the whole content should be well digested and assimilated, and before I can be free. Yeah. So to prioritize, you know, along with our other priorities, you know, going to gym or work or family time, vacation, all that is important. You know, we don't want to deny those, but maybe prioritize also the spiritual aspect, this knowledge aspect, which will have a positive impact on all other spheres of life. So now if the question is asked, how does one become a Sthita Prajnaha? First, one has to become a Prajnaha. Prajnaha means Prakarshena Janati iti Prajnaha. The one who has done systematic, consistent Shravanam for a number of years. Yeah, with a guru. So one must consistently listen and not miss the Zoom classes. Yeah, consistently listen and then follow it up with Mananam. Mananam is I should dwell upon it and clarify all my doubts. And then Nididhyasnam is meditation. Krishna has said that Matparaha, you meditate upon me. So there is a whole chapter on meditation, chapter 6 also. And so over time, that knowledge gained becomes steady and crystal clear, error free, and then one is a Siddha Prajnaha. And the Siddha Prajnaha enjoys, whatever he does, with activity, without activity, wherever he is, nothing can bind this wise person. Om Tat Sat. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om